Hey, I'm Kimberly Lake and I'm a professional medium and psychic, and I just want to introduce myself. So I've been a medium my whole life, and I've been developing my mediumship actively since 2013, so about 12 years. And I'm passionate about helping people connect to their loved ones on the other side. So I offer readings and I offer classes as well if you want to learn how to connect firsthand to your loved ones. So in addition to working as a medium, I'm also a teacher of evidential mediumship. I am an end-of-life doula with over 20 years of experience. I've worked with a lot of people at the end of life in that sacred transition. I'm a depth-oriented psychotherapist specializing in grief and trauma, working towards full licensure. So I'm very passionate about where psychology and mediumship intersect and how powerful they both are in healing. I'm passionate about helping people to connect to their loved ones, whether that's through a mediumship reading or learning how to connect with your loved ones firsthand through taking my mediumship development classes. I offer mediumship readings over Zoom, so you can connect from wherever you are in the world. I'll also be doing group readings here in Denver, Colorado, as well as online on Zoom. I love mediumship because it's magical. It's a miracle. Our loved ones can connect with us after they leave this physical world. It's amazing. They show us through their evidence that they have survived, that only their physical body has, and that everything else who makes them who they are lives on just in another place, which happens to be right here where we are, just on a different frequency, if you will. So mediumship development is a lifelong endeavor, and I've dedicated my life to becoming the best medium I can be and hold myself to very high ethical standards. I've developed with some of the best mediums in the world, such as the late and great Mavis Patilla, Annie G, Kay Reynolds, Danielle Sarank, and Tony Stockwell. My training as a grief therapist informs my work as a medium, and of course it's not therapy. Ethically, I have to keep the two practices separate, so clients that see me for mediumship can't see me for therapy and vice versa. But the training I've had helps me to better serve mediumistically, helps me to understand my clients in the spirit world, what's going on an emotional level, and how I can best help and give referrals where necessary if it's outside the scope of mediumship. My personal experience with grief and trauma, and also my training as a grief therapist and being trauma trained and somatically trained with the nervous system and with that depth psychological lens of what's going on with the unconscious, all helps me to be able to hold whatever you bring, whatever the client brings to the session. So nothing's going to shock me, nothing's going to be too much for me. So I often attract people for mediumship readings that have gone through these more challenging or traumatic experiences with their grief and loss. So Carl Jung is one of the major forefathers of depth psychology, and I consider myself a Jungian at heart. And so you may be familiar with his work with the unconscious and shadow work and projection and the collective unconscious and dream work. All these things are really important in my work and give me a multifaceted way to work with both the mediumship and clients. So I'll tell you a little bit about my story. So I've been a medium my whole life for as long as I can remember, since I was a very small child or baby. So I would always sense energy. I could see energy. I was just deeply sensitive to prophetic dreams. And also I sense the spirit world. So I've been in communication with the spirit world my whole life. So as a very small child, it terrified me. I now know there's nothing to fear about the spirit world and spirit people, but at the time I didn't have anyone directing me about it. And so I was very scared. I was primarily clairaudient as a child. That was my strongest spiritual ability. So I would hear the spirit people, especially when I was trying to go to sleep at night, which really scared me. And I'd sleep with the radio on. So this persisted. It didn't go away. I've heard people say they were able to wish their mediumship away and it just turned off. That never happened for me. So I turned to substances, as one sometimes does if you're highly sensitive. And thank God I've been sober now for 14 years. So what happened for me was it didn't make it better. It actually made my sensitivity and my spiritual experiences worse, and had some scary spiritual experiences. And I believe they helped me to reach my bottom faster with my addiction. So I got sober at 24, thankfully. And another thing that was huge during this time is I lost someone very close to me suddenly when I was 17. This plunged me into the depths of a dark night of the soul. So I had been a functioning addict and alcoholic until my loved one passed away. And I was in high school. I had above a 4.0. I was a student athlete. When they died, I started sleeping through all my classes. I barely graduated high school. My addiction got a lot worse and I went to my first rehab a year later, almost several times. So thank God by the time I was 24, I was done. I had done a lifetime of partying, condensed down into a decade. So all this time, I would always have crazy experiences. I learned to keep it to myself most of the time because I learned that other people were not experiencing it, and a lot of people just thought it was very weird. Life had to change locations. So when I was a few years sober, I went through another very challenging experience that finally pushed me to stop running from my mediumship. I realized that the most dangerous, scariest things come from living people on earth, not from the spirit world. I learned that the spirit world was only trying to help, only trying to heal. So that's when in 2013, I dedicated my life to mediumship and to stop running from it and to develop. So the first couple years I developed mostly on my own. I was single at the time and living alone. So I would spend hours and hours sitting in what I now know as sitting in the power, just deep in trance. I'm also a trance medium, do trance healing. And then thankfully I found the other mentors I mentioned, and I had a few earlier ones as well. So with all these things, with grief, with addiction, and I've been close to death myself, I've lost loved ones, it has made me feel very passionate about helping people that are going through the same thing. So if any of this sounds interesting to you, please give me a like and a follow. Leave any questions you have below. I also have one-on-one readings available on my website, KimberlyLakin.com, and I look forward to connecting with you more soon. Thank you. Take care.